Hi Glenda, how are you today?
I'm doing fine, Sarah. Thank you.
Okay, well it's a pleasure interviewing you. Glad you took the time out to let me ask you a series of questions. Okay, so I hear you grew up in South Philly. How was that?
It was nice. I grew up in South Philly in a predominantly Italian neighborhood.
So how did it feel to be the only blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl in the neighborhood?
It was different. I didn't realize how different I was, and I had diversity before diversity was popular. And I grew up in a single parent home. I made do with what we had. My mother had to work most of the time, so I was what was known as a latchkey child, before latchkey was a popular term. And we did fine.
Did you realize it, looking back now, did you realize that you were living in poverty per se, like you were the minority? How did that feel?
Well, we didn't really realize we were low income, as they would call it today. It was if you didn't have the money to buy the food, you didn't eat. If you didn't have the clothes, you wore hand-me-downs.
Do you feel like that made you a better person, knowing now?
I didn't know at that time that I didn't have. I was thankful for what we did have. Being poverty was my mother. She was the oldest of 11 children. So compared to how she came up, I was quite wealthy.
Right.
Yes. And we did the best we could with what we had.
But looking back at it now, do you appreciate things more because seeing that you had less then? Do you appreciate it more now, or do you feel entitled? How does that work?
I always feel entitled. It's in my nature. But no, it doesn't make a difference. What it did do for me is it taught me that stuff is just stuff.
Right.
That you don't need a lot of things to be happy. If I want a lot of things, I buy it for me.
Right.
But I don't have to have it or need it. I feel that having my family.
Okay. Well, speaking of family, you have 2 children, right?
Yes, I do.
A boy and a girl. Okay.
I have a son, Glenda Dillon, and I have a daughter, Doreen Fox. Doreen was the firstborn.
Okay. Now, where was she born?
Both the children were born in California.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we left Philadelphia, went to California for about a year.
Is that where you met your husband?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I didn't meet him at that time, though. We were there about a year. I was 19. We went to Florida, Miami, and that was during the Cuban crisis.
Oh, is that so?
Yes, yes. It was quite interesting, although I didn't realize the danger we were in at that time. At 19, you're invincible.
Right.
And then we went back to California, and that's where I met my husband.
Okay. Now, what was your husband's line of work?
He was the Marine Corps. It was during Vietnam. And I met him there. He was a Marine in Camp Lejeune. And we got married and was out there where the children were born.
Okay, and then how did you end up in Lawrence County?
This is where his family is. And his mother was not well. And we decided to move back here and be around his family. And we've now been here 36, 37 years.
Right.
I consider this home now.
Home. Now, out of all the places you've been and you've lived, would you prefer to live here, or would you like to be back in California where it's nice and warm and cozy?
I prefer here because this is where my grandchildren and my family is.
Okay.
I loved living in California and Florida because of all the things that you can do. Like when I retired, I was bored. I was definitely bored.
Okay, well, speaking of retirement, tell me a little bit about your career and how that began.
Okay. I worked as a waitress at Disneyland while I was in school.
When you were 19?
No, I was 20 then.
Oh, 20, okay.
I was going to Santa Ana JC. And then I got married, worked at a bindery in a printing business. When we moved back here, I basically raised the family.
Right.
And then when they got of age in junior high school, I went back to school.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to Huntington Junior Business College to become a dental assistant.
Okay. Now, is that what you finished your career out as a dental assistant?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now,
Yes,
what
it
was
is.
your first job?
My first job once I left the junior college was working at Hills. I put in all kinds of applications and there just was not an opening.
Right.
Then Dr. Aldridge interviewed me and hired me, and I was with him for 3 years. Then I went to work for Cuffy York for 3 years in Chesapeake.
Mm-hmm.
I then went to the Veterans Administration in the dental clinic, and I worked there 20 years, and that's where I retired from.
Okay, well, what was the most rewarding part about your job at the VA, working with the veterans?
The veterans themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely loved them.
How so?
They were very appreciative of what treatment they received, even though it was us that should have been appreciative of their service.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very loving, nice people. The downfall was that you got attached to the fellas and they would pass away.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very, very upsetting.
Would you consider them modest?
Oh yes, very, very, very lovely men.
Mm-hmm.
I even had one little fellow who was a World War I veteran.
Oh, wow.
Yes, just a sweet little fellow. And just amazing, amazing men. I loved my job.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with the general dentist. I worked with the periodontist. I worked with the oral surgeon. I worked in the OR with the oral surgeon. And the job was very rewarding as far as the veterans, but it was also good paying and gave me great benefits for retirement.
Mm-hmm. So, let me get this straight. You retired about 7 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now did you like that, or?
No. I stayed retired for about a year,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know one day from another. If it weren't for my grandchildren keeping me busy, I would have gone a little bit wacky. I'm known as the crazy grandma anyway. But I went back to work. I worked 2 days a week in at Dr. Aldridge, the first dentist I ever worked for. So what goes...
So you're back at working with the original
Yes,
dentist, right?
Right. What goes around comes around. And I really enjoy working there. It gives me a chance to talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a windy person, so I like to talk to people.
So I hear you putting forth back what you get out. So you volunteer at Ebenezer. Is it on every other week, or?
Well, right now the clinic is closed for remodeling. They're adding another dental chair
Uh-huh.
and getting some of the local dentists to volunteer some time. But yes, I do believe in volunteering and giving back for all the things I've received.
Right. Right.
I really think that's important, that people give back.
Mm-hmm.
And I spend a lot of time with my grandchildren, as you are aware of. I enjoy my life.
Mm-hmm.
I do not like being interviewed. I don't like my picture taken. But like I had always said, 10 years from now, when I'm 80, I'll think I'm looking really hot.
And that is true. So, when you said you like to live life to the fullest,
Mm-hmm.
Would that be another reason why you take so many vacations and go out and just...
Yes, it is. My motto is, I gave the family what they're going to get, inheritance-wise, and what money I make, I'm spending. I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to make memories, not money.
Right. Because you can't take money with you after all, right?
No, but I'll leave some memories behind.
Well, it was very nice interviewing you. I'm glad you took the time out. It was fun.
Well, what more do you want to know about me? I can't skip.
Well, I can't do a cartwheel, so it runs in the family.
Hey, yes it does.
Well, thank you.
Love
It's a
you,
pleasure.
baby.
Love you too.
Okay.